with his team from coast to this coast. This is about the 95th stop Michael has made across Canada. It's been 25,000 miles, introducing himself to Canadians all across this country. And Michael, this is fantastic that you're here today. Everyone is here to see you and to listen to you. The next Prime Minister of Canada, Michael Ignatieff.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the reasons that it is an enormous pleasure to be here is that this party has an absolutely wonderful candidate in Victoria, Christopher Causton. A business owner, a councillor, a mayor, someone with experience, someone with integrity, someone anchored and rooted in this community. So if you want to know what you can do, you want to know, politics is not a spectator sport. It's a contact sport. Contact, handshake by handshake, vote by vote, conversation by conversation. So if you want to help us, if you want to help the Liberal Party, get this good man into the House of Commons of Canada. And while you're at it, get Renee Hetherington into Saanich Gulf Island. Get this guy Keith Martin back in the House of Commons. There you go. You're an extraordinary crowd, and I guess you get told that all the time. Or you think I say that in every crowd I'm in. But I have to tell you, I walked 15 feet from this door to the entrance of Serious Coffee, and in that time I had 10 conversations about serious substantive policy issues. You are absolutely extraordinary. I've never been in a crowd like this in my life. Good for you. A man came up to me and said, the key word, Mr. Ignatieff, is imagination. Isn't that a good thing to say to a politician? It is about imagination. It's about love of our country. The sense of seeing it larger, more ambitious, more inclusive, more open, more free, more equal. So imagination, wherever you are, sir, you're absolutely right. And another woman just behind that tree there said to me, I got one thing to say, she said, houses, not prisons. How about that? Houses, not prisons. You bet. Affordable housing. Affordable housing for seniors. Help for someone else came just behind her, said, you got to do something about the mental patients, the people who have mental illness, who struggle with mental illness. Don't believe all this stuff about just giving them medication and turning them loose. This is Canada. We've got to care. We've got to provide hope. We've got to provide shelter. So I hadn't got past that tree before I heard three things that I agreed with strongly. And my point in mentioning this is the way we ought to do politics. I listen. You speak. I speak. You listen. That's how we do it. You cannot lead. You cannot lead, my friends, unless you listen. And I learned that from my wife Susanna, who's here today. If I don't listen to her, I'm in super big trouble all the time. So there we are. So I want to thank you for your civic engagement. I want to thank those of you who are carrying posters, signs, for coming as well. You're part of the conversation, and I welcome your presence here today. Let me tell you what I've heard as I've gone across the country. I've heard, and I heard it in this crowd today, people coming up to me in a way they did not do last summer. They did not do the summer before, saying, looking at me very intently in the eye and saying, you have got to get rid of Stephen Harper. And this is not personal. This is about our country and its institutions. This is a Prime Minister who has shut Parliament down twice. This is a Prime Minister who, when asked to do something by a federal court, ignores a federal court. This is a Prime Minister who, when he's told by the RCMP, actually, the long gun registry is an essential element of the public safety of our country, that guy gets sent for French lessons. And whatever you know he has not been sent for French lessons. He has been fired by the Prime Minister because he stood up to the Prime Minister and told him that their position on the gun registry makes no sense in terms of public safety. This is a Prime Minister who, when he's faced with criticism on Afghanistan by a public servant of Canada, and some of you in this audience have served the country as public servants in the provincial or federal service, that man had his reputation publicly taken apart by ministers. This is a government where their idea of rebuilding the prestige of Canada on the international stage is to shut down a city for 72 hours, put up a fake lake, and bill you for $1 billion. Now, what kind of government does that? What kind of government fails to understand that is the worst possible way to rebuild our prestige on the world stage? This is also a Prime Minister who says, what I want to do is persuade you that anybody who's lived outside the country ought to be somehow ashamed of himself. And all of you have relatives, friends, sons, daughters, uncles, aunts who've worked and live overseas. And you don't happen to think that they're lesser Canadians because of it. You actually think they're just as good as Canadians who've stayed at home and never gone overseas. And this is what we have to change in our country. A sense of our citizenship. The Canadian citizen is a global citizen. The Canadian citizen is going out and back, engaging with the world, drilling a well in Kenya, coming back, teaching English somewhere, building the values that Canada stands for on the world stage. That's the Canada I stand for. That's the Canada you stand for. That's the Canada that I have lived. So when people say to me, we've got to get rid of Stephen Harper, they're saying something that isn't just about Stephen Harper. It's a sense that the country is being governed by an ideology, a set of beliefs that are alien to the character of our country. One of the little signs of that I have to tell you caught me by surprise was the census issue. Who ever thought that we Canadians would even be having a discussion about the census? This guy decided, because he practices the politics of division, he looks at every issue and figures, how do I wedge? How do I divide? How do I create fear? Because this is what's happening with the census. Let me make you frightened of the census taker. That sounds like a smart thing to do. That sounds like a really clever way to pull Canadians together. Let's make you frightened of the census taker. Let's make you believe that it's an infringement on your personal liberty. The hell it is. The hell it is. We need a census because we need information. We need reality-based politics, not ideology-based politics. That's why we need a census. And when people come up to me and they say, we've got to get rid of Stephen Harper, that's what they're talking about. The sense that the country is being changed, that it's being drawn rightwards. And many people, some of you, not all of you vote Liberal. Many of you do, but not all of you do. But I meet lots of conservatives who come up to me and say, where did the progressive in conservatism go? Where did the compassion in conservatism go? Where did the accountability in conservatism go? And then I meet people who think, I voted for this guy, but I don't recognize the Canada he's taken us into. Is come on into the big red tent. The big red tent at the center of Canadian political life. Notice I use the word center. People sometimes say the Liberal Party is a party of the left. We're not a party of the left, and we're not a party of the right. We're a party of the dynamic, reforming, progressive, responsible center of Canadian life. And we need to bring Canada back into the center. What does that mean? It means fiscal responsibility on one side. It's our money. And these guys have sprayed it around like there's no tomorrow. And we're in $54 billion worth of deficit. And many of you have children and grandchildren, and you do not want to hand that debt on to your kids and your grandkids. That's what fiscal responsibility means. We dug out the Mulroney deficit of $42 billion. We will have to do the same with Stephen Harper. So that's the fiscal responsibility side of this. But there's so much more. We've got affordable housing to build. We've got education and training to invest in. We've got to protect the Pacific North Coast against tanker traffic. There is so much we have to do together. This is good, centrist, evidence-based politics. And we have to say to all those progressive conservatives who feel deserted by their own party, come on into the big red tent at the center. And we've got to say on the other side of the political system, NDP voters, Green voters, people who want early learning and childcare for every Canadian family, people who want action on the environment, people who want a federal government that understands what they're doing up at the University of Victoria. Before I came here, I went and looked at their renewable energy programs. They have been working on fuel cells for 20 years. You understand what that means? It's not one electoral cycle. You've got to have a federal government that believes we invest and we invest and we work and we work and we bet on these brilliant people at the University of Victoria until they get us a low-carbon future for this country. But we've got to say to the people who have voted for the NDP and are tempted to vote for the Greens. Folks, we respect your values, we respect your allegiances, we respect the kind of Canada you want to create. But understand one thing, you vote for the NDP and you vote for the Greens in the next election, you will re-elect Stephen Harper and you will get nothing on the environment. You will get nothing on social justice. This has to be very, very clear. And it's especially clear with Renee Hetherington in Gulf Island Saanich. We have to understand that very clearly. Only a Liberal government will get environmental justice, social action, learning, investment in our children's future. Moderate, evidence-based government. This is the message we have to spread right across the political spectrum. Come on in to the center. Come into the big red tent at the center of Canadian life, and let's build a country that we can feel at home in again. And let's take the country back from the leadership we currently enjoy. So, the thing about this, I said earlier, it's a contact sport, politics. And it is a sport. It has to be fun. We do this because we love our country, and we do it because we love doing things together. But I need your help. I need you to sign up for the Victory Fund. If you haven't heard about the Victory Fund is the most painless way ever devised by a political party to part you from a very small amount of money to sustain the political process. So get up, sign up for the Victory Fund. But mostly, sign up for Renee and Christopher's campaign. We need you to work. We need you to knock on doors. And Keith Martin, for God's sake, thank you. Thank you. Excuse me, my God. If I didn't have you, I'd be lost. Keith, Renee, and Christopher, what was I thinking? We've got candidates here who need your help, who need your involvement. Get up off your sofas, get up off your couch. Above all, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. We practice the politics of persuasion as opposed to the politics of manipulation. And persuasion, I can do some of it, Keith can do some of it, Christopher can do some of it, Renee can do some of it, Ujjwal can do some of it, Bonnie can do some of it, Rob can do some of it, Ken can do a whole lot of it because he's bigger than all the rest of it. But we need you to do it. We need your help, we need your support, we need your votes, we need your conviction, we need your passion. And believe me, this team, we are going to give you the government and the country you deserve. Thank you so much for listening.
Michael, thanks very much for coming to Victoria. Thanks for coming to Bishrang. Thanks for coming to Cook Street. And I know you're on your way shortly. So thanks again from everyone here. Thank you.